2020 is going to be my year. I can feel it. Have you heard people say something like this before? Well, I know I have. Students, new students, potential students, they come and ask me, Lucas, is 2020 going to be a great year? Well, if we take a look at the current situation that we are all in, I don't know. But what I do know is up till now, for investing, it's been a great year. Because at the beginning of this year, I started to get a lot of new students. Also because of the situation that we were in, especially during the situation that we were in. And they keep asking me the same question over and over again. Instead of answering them one by one, I'll shoot just a video for you to answer the 5 most common ones. And if you stay until the end, I even have a surprise question that I'll be answering for you. But before we go into the video, the person who actually gave me this idea to shoot this video today for you is Jennifer Kuhn from the Kuhniverse. She's got a great channel. If you haven't checked out her channel yet, be sure to click the link down below in the description to check her channel out. She's got a great channel on budgeting, career, and all kinds of Philadelphia love. It's a great channel. Be sure to check it out and give her some love as well. Okay, let's get into the video. Hey, what's up you guys? Lucas here from excelwealth.com. Great that you joined in today, because in today's video, I want to go through the 5 most common questions on investing here in 2020 that I tend to get very often this year. But before we go into the video, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because that's the way how we can grow a community. And of course, if you haven't checked out my latest book yet, How to Invest 2 Minutes on the Stock Market and Make Money as well. It's a book on how I started with only 25 bucks in my pocket, building up my portfolio of stocks and real estate later on as well. Okay, let's get into the video. Now, the first question that I want to go through with you is, what is the difference between a stock and a share? Since, those two terms are being used intertwined with each other, and people always talk, I own stocks and I've bought certain stocks in a certain area. And on the other hand, they say, well, I have got shares in Apple. So what's the difference? Is there any difference? Well, to tell you this, so is there an actual difference in those two? Well, to start out, in general, there is no difference between stocks and shares. Then again, there is a slight difference. The moment we talk about shares, most likely you can ask the next follow-up question, which is, shares in what? Where do you have shares in? Because having a share is like, you own that piece of paper, which actually says you own a share of their company. That's the whole idea behind shares. So in shares, you have a share in certain company. Whereas when we talk about stocks, you own a certain stock in a group of companies, or it could be you own a stock in a certain index fund or a mutual fund. So it's more about a group of things. Also, again, on a piece of paper, it says you have this stock, you have a certificate of stock on something. And yet, it doesn't have to be one particular company. It could be a group of companies. And that's the difference between a stock and a share. Now, question number 2 is, why should I invest in stocks? Which is a great question, because in the end, money is scarce. You can't use the same dollar bill twice, because either you invested in candy, or you invested in stocks, or you invested in something else. That is your choice. Now, why should you invest in stocks? I'll tell you this, it's very easy to do so. Everybody, the moment you have a bank account, you can actually start investing in stocks. It's very simple. You just, instead of using up the money to buy candy, for example, or cars, or anything else you can buy with money, and which is kind of everything. You can buy everything with money. No, that's not true. You can't. There are a lot of things you can't buy with money, but there are many things you can buy with money. And you could also say, you know what? I don't need the money right now, so I'm going to invest the money. Now, the moment you want to invest your money, you could say, I'm going to invest my money in stocks. And why stocks? Well, stocks are, one, easy to invest in. Because, if you have a bank account, you could say, I'm going to buy a certain share in a certain company. And there you go. You could start with $1. It's as simple as that. The moment the stock rises or falls, you could say, I'm going to sell off the stock, and then you get your money back. So it's easy, it's liquid, and anyone can start. That's the good part about stocks. And the coolest idea is, yes, you can actually start with $1. Now the thing is, even if you have a high return of 20%, having 20% on a dollar is like still, it's only like 20 cents, so that doesn't make any huge differences on your wallet yet. The moment we talk about $1,000 and you get a 20% return, there you have it. All of a sudden you've got 200 bucks. Just like that, like, hey, I did a great job on investing my money. And there I've got it, just free money. That's not completely free, then again, you did a lot of work for that, but you get it, The idea is very simple. So on stocks, why should you invest in stocks? The return on investment can potentially be very high. But then again, the downside to stocks is there's also high potential of risk. But that's one of the few next questions that I'm going to go through. And if you have no strategy or no idea what to invest in, well, when we take a look at the S&P 500, which is the Standard & Poor's 500 companies in the US, you can actually just take a look at those 500 companies. You could actually, the moment if you start investing in these companies, you'll see that there's an average return annually, if you correct them over a longer time of period, of about 9% per year. So having a 9% return on investment per year on something like the S&P 500, take a look at that. It's a great idea. Whereas when you compare this with saving your money on a bank account, it's like, you get 0.01%, which is not that much, and yet you still, put in your time and money in there. It's a very great safe way, but then again, it doesn't do that much. Whereas when you put your money in the S&P 500, and you can say, you know what, I'm just gonna leave my money there for like 20 or 30 years. You'll have an annual return of 9%. Each year on that money that you put in, you get 9%. It's not that every year you'll get 9%. So like you put it into this year and next year when you take a look, it's up 9%. It doesn't go like that. It's more like, this year could be like 9%, next year could be like 20%, and the year after could be like minus 10%. On average on those years, it's still about 9%. And that's the whole idea with the S&P 500. It could go up, but it could also go down. But on average, on the longer term, like at least 10 years, on average, there's about 9%. And therefore, investing in stocks is actually not a bad idea. It's a great way to invest your money. Just leave it there and just say, you know what, I don't need it now. So let's just see what comes out of it in about 20 or 30 years time. And that brings us to the next question. Now, question number 3 that I get very often, since I use the S&P 500 as an example very often, people tend to ask me, Lucas, can I invest in the S&P 500? Now, theoretically, you cannot. Now, the moment you're watching this, you're thinking, Lucas, that's not true. I can invest in the S&P 500 if I want to. Well, that's actually the S&P 500 index fund. You can invest in an index fund. Now you might be thinking, what? Index fund? Yes. Well, everybody knows index funds if you are a bit common with investing, of course. But then again, the S&P 500 itself, you can't be investing in the S&P 500, which is just a statistics tracker. They just check the 500 companies. And yes, Apple is, for example, in those S&P 500. But then again, if you want to be investing in the S&P 500 index fund, that's something else. That's actually an index fund. But we'll get into the index funds in just a bit. But to answer the question, can I invest in the S&P 500 as companies themselves? Not like this. You can't say like, you know what, I'm going to invest in the S&P 500. Yes, in the index funds, you can. The fourth question that I get very often is that, Lucas, stocks, aren't they very risky? Well, I'll tell you this. This is a very good question because in the end, I'll tell you this, stocks are not risky. Now you might be thinking, that's not true. Stocks are very risky. I've been told very often, I've been told in schools that stocks are very risky. With high risk comes high potentials. And then again, the description is correct. But stocks themselves are not risky. You know what is risky? You know what is risky? The ease that comes with the stocks. Like I mentioned before, why stocks are so great to invest in, I'll tell you this. You can start today. The moment you have a brokerage account, which is a bank account that just sells and buys investments like this, like stocks and shares, the moment you have a bank account like this and you say like, you know what, I'm going to invest $1,000 in Apple. You're going to do that right now. The cool part is you can do that right now, like that. Boom. Now you're the owner of Apple shares and you have $1,000 of them. I don't know how many that are, but we can check that on Google. But If you do that, boom, there you have it. You bought Apple shares with $1,000. Congratulations. But the thing is, you can see those numbers go up and down, up and down, up and down. Not only for a day, you can check that every minute, whenever you want to. Now the cool part is, you already know what the cost is of the moment you buy or sell, which is called transaction cost. So the moment you buy or sell, the brokerage account could charge you certain transaction costs. But that's something else. But the thing is, let's pretend that you can buy for $1,000, you can buy Apple shares. Now, if the price of the Apple shares goes up, you become happy. Like, whoa, all of a sudden, my $1,000 share in Apple is currently valued at $1,100. So you made $100 the moment you start selling. But if you don't sell, it's just on paper. It's profit on paper. But the moment you do sell, you get $100 profit, which is in this case 10% return on investment. You put in $1,000, you got out $1,100. Congratulations! But the same thing goes to the moment the price goes down. Let's pretend you bought for $1,000, you bought shares in Apple. And all of a sudden the value of Apple goes down on paper. And all of a sudden your stocks are valued at $800. That means you've made a loss of $200. Which means you made a loss of 20%. Now at that moment you could say like, you know what, I'm gonna sell out my stock. I gotta sell them. I don't want to make more losses here. You gotta see like that. This is risky because if you want to sell off at $800 value, you can. That's the coolest part of stocks, because the moment you want to sell, you can click on sell. And that's the scary part. Stocks aren't risky. They're just being valued every second of the day. Well, actually, the moment the market is open, of course. They're being valued throughout the whole day, 8 hours a day. They're being valued, they're being valued, they're being valued, they're being valued. And every second, you could keep an eye on the market, saying like, ooh, goes up, goes up, goes up. Oh, that's great, that's great, great, great. Sell. Or you could like, oh no, it goes down, goes down, goes down, goes down, goes down. No, 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 I'm losing my value. Oh. Now I'll tell you this, if you see your $1,000 that you've invested disappear like snow in front of the sun, then yes, you'd like to, save your snow. You'd like to save your money as soon as you can. And that part is the risky part within stocks. And this is why stocks aren't risky. Your own emotions are risky. If you can't, stay away from those stocks the moment you start investing, then yes, you are a risk to yourself. And this is what I tell my students as well. Are you able to only open up your brokerage account once a month? This is why my book is called 2 Minutes on the Stock Market. Spend 2 minutes on the stock market. You only spend 2 minutes on the stock market every month. If you can limit your time to only 2 minutes a month by checking your brokerage account only once a month and say like, you know what? Does it follow my strategy? Yes. Good. Is it actually making a good profit? And does it still fulfill all the requirements that I said? Or yes, sell. Because there's a certain strategy to it and you keep control of your emotions. It's very important. The moment you can keep track of your emotions, stocks don't have to be risky. Now, question number 5 that I want to share with you, that I get very often, is, Lucas, what's a mutual fund? Well, it's a very good question because, so yes, we can buy individual shares on a company. For example, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy individual shares on Google. I want to say, you know what? I'm going to buy Google one by one all those shares. But the thing is, some people say like, you know what? I actually prefer to be in the technology department. I would like to buy some on Google, some on Microsoft, some on Apple, someone on Facebook, on you name it. Now, there are mutual funds, as it says, it's a mutual fund. So there's one fund and there are all kinds of investors that put their money all together and they put it in the mutual fund. And the cool part is about mutual funds is that you don't have to keep track of those singular shares. Now, what you do, of course, in this case, is you only put your money in and you let a manager actively manage all those stocks for you. And not only for you, but all the hundreds of thousands of investors who put their money into a mutual fund as well. But the thing is with mutual funds, it's a very cool thing. Instead of investing in one particular company, you might be investing in 100 particular companies, which is a great way because if one company falls in value, doesn't mean that all the other 99 companies have to fall in value as well. That's a great thing because, if we take a look currently, the technical department is doing a great job because everybody's working from home, or at least a lot of people are working from home. And therefore, it's a great way to say, like, you know what, I'm going to invest in mutual funds. But the thing is, with mutual funds, there is one disadvantage. Well, at least I think there's one disadvantage, because the managers that actively invest for you need to be paid. And sometimes they charge over 2% on whatever they do for you. 2%. So that means if you make a return on investment each year, like 7%, you still have to give 2% of that return to those managers. So yes, a lot of your profit goes to those managers. And therefore, they've created something called index funds. Index funds are just tracking the index. It's not completely passively managed, but there is a manager on it that says, you know what, let's just track these indexes. Let's just track these indexes like an S&P 500. And therefore, you can invest your money in an index fund like the S&P 500. And that's a lot cheaper because the transaction costs are far lower. They're maybe 0.5%. And therefore, it's a lot cheaper to invest in index funds. And those were the 5 common questions that I tend to get very often. But since you got here to the end of this video, of course, I want to share with you the last bonus question. And that bonus question is, Lucas, how do I get started with buying stocks? How do I get started? Well, that's a very good question. Before you get started, the first thing that you always need to have is a brokerage account. There are so many out there, depending on which style fits you the best. If you don't know which app suits you the best, be sure to check out my other video, because I shot a different video on which brokerage accounts you could use. Now, the moment you have a brokerage account, you need to send money from your actual checking account to the actual brokerage account. And then from that moment on, you can actually just stop buying. But the thing is, don't just stop buying randomly. That's what I did when I was younger, and most likely you have no idea what you're doing and your emotions are going to take over, and then stocks become very risky. Therefore, it's very important to know what is your strategy. The moment you start applying the strategies, the only thing what you need to do is pump in money, sit and wait until the money grows, and then, like I said in my book, invest 2 minutes every month, and then just wait and see it out. And let's just see what the stocks actually do for you. If they rise, good for you. You can sell right now. If they lose value, don't you sell them off right now, because that's only loss on paper. The moment you start really selling them off, then actually your loss is there. You've actually lost money. And if you want to know how to get started and you want to know how I do it, you can always reach out to me by sending me a comment down below here in the video, or you can just send me a message to my email and reach out to me personally. I thank you very much for watching today's video. And of course, if you haven't checked out Jennifer Kuhn's Kuhniverse channel, be sure to check out her channel as well. Oh yeah, and if you haven't hit the like button yet, be sure to hit that like button, because, YouTube likes the algorithm being influenced by you. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because that's the way how we can grow our community. And of course, if you want to be notified every time a new video comes out, be sure to click the notification bell as well. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Happy investing, and bye-bye.